Hi guys, well for today's video we're going to be taking a look at a new case from BitFenix. This is the Nova. So the overall objective, the aim with this new case is going to be on value. It's hopefully going to be a good option for you guys if you're perhaps building a new rig. It may even be the very first time that you've ever built a custom PC. Often a lot of the cases that are available are quite pricey, and by the time you've got that list of components together, the last thing that you want to be spending hundreds of pounds, hundreds of dollars on is an enclosure. Nova is a new entry-level computer chassis which, while having a low price tag, still delivers an elegant design. Inside there is support for large CPU coolers, big graphics cards, and an assortment of different size storage allocation. Okay, so the price is fundamental to this case, and you can either get it in black and white or windowed or non-windowed version. Now the windowed version is going to be around £26, $50, and the non-windowed version is a few pounds or a few dollars cheaper. This is probably one of the cheapest cases from a reputable brand that you're going to be able to get your hands on. So we're now going to begin our video on this case, explore this new case and all its features, and we hope you enjoy the video. If you've got any questions, then please feel free to ask away. Okay, well let's start with the front of Nova. So as you can quite clearly see there, we have an elegant front panel, which if you're familiar with other BitFenix cases, you'll see a likeness to their other designs. So this is a plastic fascia, and since it's closed off there, we've got the ventilation strips down either side to provide some air to find a way into that case, as it is possible to install two 120mm fans. And I'll just show you what you can expect underneath. Just pull this cover off. You can see there are no pre-installed cooling fans, but there is allocation there for two 120mm options. Now in the upper region of that front panel there is just a single optical drive cover, and that can be detached from the inside of the case. Up at the very top of that front panel there are a small assortment of ports and buttons which form the front panel connectivity. So from left to right we've got two activity LEDs, a single USB 2 port, a single USB 3 port, large power button, headphone and microphone jacks, and a reset button. So not a massive amount of functionality there, but all the basics are pretty much covered. Further back from these ports we have the top panel, which as you can see lacks any perforated mesh that you'd usually expect on a computer case. So instead we have just a solid steel panel. So this kind of hints at the inability to install any cooling at the very top of Nova. Next we have the side panels, and on the prominent side here we've got this large perspex window to provide a bit of a view of the kit which is installed. Now over on the reverse side there, the panel is completely solid and it lacks any notable features. So let's take both of those panels off to get a bit of an overview of the layout and the included features. Now all of the internals are powder coated black, and there are cutouts for the cable management, but they do lack any of those rubber grommets, and there are certain areas which have the toolless mechanisms for installing kit. Okay, so moving in for a look at the specific areas of the inside of Nova, we're going to start by taking a look at the power supply area. So at the bottom of the case there we can install units which are up to 220mm long. Underneath we've got the rubber pads for cushioning, and the actual underside of that chassis has the detachable dust filter. Now due to the limited clearance from the floor and the brackets underneath, getting that filter out can be quite tricky, as you can see. Moving up, there are a total of 7 PCIe covers for any expansion devices. Now 6 of those are disposable, so once you've removed one you can't reuse it. But the uppermost cover there is reusable, and it uses a standard screw for fitment. So it's a bit unfortunate really that Nova has these disposable covers, but based on that low price tag there are bound to be certain cutbacks. There is however nothing to stop you from getting an aftermarket set of covers and fitting those to the case yourself. At the back of Nova, BitFenix has included a 120mm cooling fan. Now this is the only fan that's inside the case and is positioned to be an exhaust. And as we've already highlighted there, at the very top we've got a solid panel, and there is no option there to install any fans or radiators. So if you've got a 240mm liquid cooler, you're not going to be able to fit it in there obviously. Now at the front of Nova there are a trio of 5 1/4 drive bays. Only one of those has the ability to act as an optical drive bay, and that has the toolless mechanism as well, so you just need to insert and turn. Now in the bottom bay there we can actually install either a 2.5 inch drive or a 3.5 inch. Below the optical drive cage, there is a small hard drive cage. Now this lacks any tool-free design for getting your storage in and out, so instead you're going to need to revert back to the old school method of using standard screws. So this cage can house 4 3.5-inch drives and 1 2.5-inch drive on the very top. So this should really cater for most people's needs. Obviously there is a bit more of an emphasis there on mechanical drives inside Nova, and really we'd really have liked to have seen perhaps a few more locations or the ability to install more SSDs. Now, we get asked all the time whether certain coolers or cards will fit inside specific cases. So if you want to know whether something fits, pay close attention to this section of the video. So first of all, the CPU cooler, we have up to approximately 160mm for the total height. Our cooler here is the Noctua NH-U12P, which is 158mm in height, and you can see there it is kind of touch and go with the space between the top of it and the side panel. Next up, for the graphics card clearance, there is no obstruction there in terms of any hard drive cages, and the card can quite easily fit into that cavity there, so there is no problems really for installing big graphics cards. The only thing that you might need to look at is that if you're planning a dual card configuration, that second card might touch the hard drive cage. So if you are going to go for a dual card config, you'll have approximately up to 280mm to the cage, and then up to 250mm to a hard drive installed in that top bay. For cable management, behind the motherboard tray there is approximately 1cm, which isn't a lot of space at all, so arranging those cables can be quite difficult. It just takes a bit more time to manipulate them as best you can and use cable ties. But once you do pin them back, the side panel should fit back onto the case nicely. Now the only downside is that the only area redundant cables can really go is that space there by the hard drives. There isn't any specific area to tuck them away. Right guys, well, for our final clip, as we always do with our case reviews, we're going to demonstrate how loud that cooling fan is inside Nova. Now this is the only fan that we've got inside. This is a 120mm cooling fan, and it's positioned to be an exhaust, as we've already said. So what we're going to do now is we're going to power the system up and get the microphone as close to it as possible, just to give you a bit of an idea of what you can expect. Right, well that is the new BitFenix Nova. So for those of you who are perhaps on a tight budget, you don't want to spend a lot of cash on an enclosure, then this is a pretty good option for you guys to go with. As you've seen in the video, there's plenty of space inside for ATX sized motherboards. Large CPU coolers will fit, high-end graphics cards as well, and of course for the storage we've got 2.5-inch and the 3.5-inch options too. Now, there are of course going to be a few compromises, but for the price you can excuse certain cutbacks. And I'll just mention a few of those just to let you know. PCIe covers, 6 of the 7 are disposable, so you're not going to be able to reuse them once they have been removed. Tool-free mechanisms inside are fairly sparse, so instead you're going to have to get your screwdriver and your screws out. Not a big problem really. Cooling options at the top, there are none. So if you have got a 240mm style liquid cooler, then you're obviously not going to be able to fit it inside there. Now aside from this, you're not really going to be able to find a case which looks this good and that also has such a type of feature set. Now as always guys, the full review is going to be on the screen and in the description. Over there you're going to be able to find the high-res pictures and the cooling performance. Now just as a quick heads up, we're going to be doing a giveaway pretty soon. Going to be able to win quite a nice selection of hardware. We're likely to tie that in with Twitch and with YouTube, so stay tuned for that. If you did like this video today, please hit that like button and show us some love. Thanks very much for watching today guys. Take care of yourself and I'll see you guys in the next video.